Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to my review of yet another Scottish watch. But unlike the Spinnaker Nessie from a couple of weeks ago that was really leaning into its Scottish connections with its saltire bezel and multiple sightings of the Loch Ness Monster, all while being manufactured many thousands away from the motherland, this one is actually assembled in Scotland by a Scottish company. But that does come at a bit of a cost, as we'll see later on. This is the new Paulin Mara, the Glasgow company's first attempt at producing a dive watch after many years now, 12 years in fact, of producing distinctive, stylish, colourful and rather quirky 3 and 4 handers just like these ones. I actually reviewed one of their Neo models on loan to the channel a few years ago. Talking of which, you saw the pop-up. The watch on my wrist is a sample, but I do not have to send it back, just so we're clear. This one arrived almost exactly 2 months ago, so I have had plenty of time to get my head around it, to get a good handle on its strengths and its weaknesses. So let's get into it, starting with the packaging. No plastics anywhere, which is good to see. There's clearly been quite a bit of thought put into this watch's environmental impact in a number of different areas, as you'll see. The shipping box is actually something that you're likely to retain. It contains a 2-piece cork coffin within it. There's a little metal clip holding those pieces together, the clip forming the letter I in the brand's name. If you pop that open, there you will find the Mara. There are a couple of different versions available. I specifically asked for this black one. The other is blue, and I just don't do blue. All watches come with 2 straps, an Italian Alcantara backed fabric strap, which is made of recycled fishing nets, and a fitted end-link rubber strap. Another nice little touch there with the recycled strap, thoroughly appropriate as Mara is the Gaelic word for sea. And I gotta say, the dimensions on this one are pretty sweet, and it wears beautifully, as you'll see, especially I think on the fitted rubber strap. Paulin claim a diameter of 39.7mm. I cannot quite get that figure on my calipers. I get 39.3 across the bezel, but closer to 40.5 across the narrowest point of the case. Thickness is 13.7, lug to lug a perfectly wearable 48mm. Lugs are drilled, by the way, which is nice to see. 20mm lug width. Weight, well, weight varies depending on strap, from 93 on the canvas to 100 on the nose on the rubber. Water resistance is 300 meters with the aid of a screw down crown. Crystal is a fabulous piece of almost kind of like bubble dome sapphire, if you will, with 3 layers of anti-reflective undercoating. And the movement, well, Paulin, bit of a left field company, and they have made a slightly left field choice in the form of the La Jouperet G101. As discussed, I do not have to send this one back, so I have no problem popping off the sample case back and showing you what exactly a G101 looks like. Do you know what? It looks a lot like a Miyota 9000 series, doesn't it? There's a theory that the two are closely related, as La Jouperet are owned by the Citizen Group, which also owns Miyota. And the G101 only winds in one direction, just like the 9000 series. It features 24 jewels, it hacks, it hand winds, but unlike the 9000 series, it has a not inconsiderable power reserve of 68 hours. We are seeing these more often as alternatives to higher grade ETAs and Solitas. Personally, I have no problem at all with that. Case finish is very pleasant. It's very simple, kind of fine brushing on the sides of the case with tapering high polish chamfers on the upper and lower edges of all 4 drilled lugs, and some really nice crown guards. I do like these a lot. They look just big enough to do a great job in protecting the crown, whilst not impinging at all on the overall fluidity of the case design. And it's a great crown too, 7mm and nice and grippy. Now Paulin do not specify what the bezel insert is made of, but it looks like it's made out of sapphire to me. This one features a yellow triangle at 12 and numerals on the 5s in Paulin's own signature typeface. The bezel action is perfectly reasonable, but the bezel itself, it's not super grippy. The indents sit quite low and are quite small, and there's a kind of angle leading down to them. So this bezel designed clearly with daily comfort in mind rather than daily use in mind, if you see what I mean. Moving on to the two straps, I do like the rubber. It's very comfortable, and the fact that it's fitted to the case always gets an extra couple of points from the Scottish judge. Now, it is Paulin branded. You can see again in their signature font the letters moulded at jaunty angles on each half of the strap and on the back of the strap as well. But they've done it in such a way that it doesn't look cheesy, and after a while you barely notice that it's there. It just becomes a nice little design touch. The hardware is slim and comfortable, and I've never seen a black tang with a silver stainless steel buckle before, but now I have. In fact, I've now seen it twice because they use exactly the same buckle and tang for the fabric strap. Both buckles are actually branded, but they're branded on the underside. More on that later. There are two fine brush retainers, one fixed and one mobile. Both straps are quick release, even though the case has drilled lugs. The fabric one is okay, but the rubber is definitely the standout for me. I guess the dial and hands though is the standout of the whole watch. If you like the Paulin look, that is. This is apparently their own bespoke typeface, or at least the numerals are. I'm not quite sure how bespoke a circle, a triangle, and a square can actually be. Everything is just painted on rather than applied. It's kind of lacquer painted, as is the Paulin way. The minute track around the outer edge is colour matched to the minute hand, and the second hand, the lollipop of the second hand, passes directly over the top of those markers. I really do quite like that effect. The stubby hour hand and squared off minute hand keep a decidedly geometric theme running. Glasgow is a city that definitely has a bit of a swagger about it, a bit of confidence, a bit of attitude, and you can see a little bit of that confidence coming out in how Paulin have branded the Mara. As in, they haven't really branded the Mara. The brand name is on the dial, squeezed between the indices at 7 and 8. It's on the rubber strap as well, but it's not that obvious, and it's on the underside of those buckles, rather than the top. I think Paulin are pretty comfortable about who they are and what they do, and their approach to branding is representative of that. On wrist, I said it wore well, and it really does. This was the only watch that I took on a trip up to Brisbane a few weeks ago, and I didn't take it off for 3 days. I didn't need to take it off, I didn't want to take it off. It fits and sits so nicely on my wrist. It's a pretty muted colour palette though on this one, certainly compared to some of their other watches. As discussed, there is a blue version of this one if you prefer, and I saw you can spec the blue rubber or blue fabric strap with the black watch if you want to, but personally I think it might be a bit much. I think it might overpower the grey and yellow bezel on this model. Legibility is okay. Proportionally speaking, there's quite a lot of bezel and not quite as much dial, meaning the hands are fairly compact relative to the overall size of the watch, but because the black dial is so simple, they still provide plenty of contrast. The AR undercoating helps, but you are always going to get a bit of flecto coming with this type of doming. I think it looks really good though. I think it adds to the look overall. Alright, moans and niggles. It's stylish, it's quirky, it's definitely appealing, but Paulins are not cheap for what you get, and the Mara is no exception to that particular rule. These are 1,200 Great British pounds or 1,650 US dollars before any applicable tariffs. The cost for me here in Australia is 2,530 Aussie with free shipping, but an Aussie is on the bell for 10% import tax on that, taking it to nearly 2,800. There is no way of dressing that up. That is rather a lot of money. I appreciate that Mara is assembled in the UK. I appreciate that it has its own unique brand character, and I do appreciate the nice Swiss movement, but $2,800 is quite a big ask for a dive style watch that doesn't even come on a bracelet. Aussies can buy a Longines dive watch, several Christopher Ward divers, or any Oris Aquis you like pretty much for considerably less than Paulin are charging for this one. Now I appreciate they're not the same thing, but still. And the Mara, as much as it has 300 meters of water resistance and is named after the sea, it's not a tool diver. It doesn't have a fully graded bezel. The bezel itself is designed, as discussed, for comfort rather than utility to some degree anyway. Some of the minute markings make way for branding, and the handset is not particularly suited to precise, at a glance, timekeeping. So don't expect an out-and-out tool watch because you just won't find one. The fact that the loom is only kind of passable is more evidence of exactly that. Printed dial rather than applied indices never helps. I think some of the press shots maybe do this one a few favours in terms of the loom, especially on the bezel, because as you can see, when I turn the speed up, the bezel fades all too quickly. There's still a little bit left on the hands at the end of my test, but perhaps not quite as much as there should be here considering the price tag. And yeah, maybe you spotted it earlier on, plastic movement holder. Perhaps they had their reasons for this one, but it's never really something you want to see when you pop the case back off a £3 watch for the first time. So that is my take on the Paulin Mara then. Nice, but at what price? If you're a fan of the brand and you own several of their other watches already, then you will not think twice about buying this one, I'm sure, because you've already bought into the design, you've bought into the character, you've bought into the quirk. And if you haven't, this watch is probably not aimed at you in the first place. Well done for making it all the way to the back end of the video. If you're feeling Scottish today, why not keep that feeling going for the next 10 minutes by clicking here or here. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you over there.